Okay, so we're holding in Tractate Chullin. Tractate Chullin, the name of the chapter is Gid Hanasheh, the sciatic nerve. And no, we just finished Kisui Adam. We started Gid Hanasheh the other day. So it's Perik Shvi, chapter 7, and today is Amud Tzadik, page 90.
Page 90.
90A1. So we ended off saying Alma Isu Mukdoshin Kodim. We see from the fact that the sinews develop after the limbs. First the limbs develop in the body, meaning you're creating a child, a mother or an animal creates a fetus. First the limbs are created and then the sinews. That Kodshim prohibition comes to the fetus before the Gid Hanasheh prohibition. So therefore, not together with it. So what's the problem with it? It says in number 1, for the fetus becomes consecrated the moment it forms. Right? The very second it forms becomes consecrated. When the Gid Hanasheh, along with the rest of the sinews, have not yet developed. So the Kedusha was already there, and the prohibition of Gid Hanasheh only kicked in later. Okay? Accordingly, when the Gid Hanasheh does develop, its prohibition should not take effect on the already existing Kodshim prohibition. We wanted to say, the Mishnah said that the laws of Gid Hanasheh, that you're not allowed to eat the sciatic nerve, it's in Kodashim and in Chullin. Right? So the question is, why is it in Kodashim? Why is it prohibited to eat Gid Hanasheh when it comes to Kodshim? The Gemara concedes this last point, but argues that the Mishnah nonetheless teaches that Gid Hanasheh prohibition takes effect on the consecrated fetus, meaning a baby that the mother was consecrated, and therefore the baby is consecrated as well. The fetus is the baby of the animal. Even though the Kodshim prohibition indeed comes to the fetus before the Gid Hanasheh prohibition, Osi Isu Gid Choil Alayu. The Gid Hanasheh prohibition nevertheless comes and takes effect upon the consecrated things. Shekein Isur Noeg B'Bnei Noach, because its prohibition is more stringent than it applies to the sons of Noach. It says in number 2, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applied to Yaakov's children and descendants even prior to the giving of the Torah at Sinai. At that point in time, the children of Israel were still classified as sons of Noach. The legal status defining a non-Jew's mitzvah obligations according to the Torah, and it says this makes the Gid Hanasheh prohibition more stringent in comparison to other prohibitions, allowing it to take effect on a pre-existing but less stringent prohibition. So the pre-existing is Kodshim, but less stringent. Meaning Gid Hanasheh, why is it so stringent? Because it was before even the Torah was given. It says right after Yaakov, a thigh was dislocated. What did it say? Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael es Gid Hanasheh. So from that time and on, they were not allowed to eat Gid Hanasheh. So it's considered like Bnei Noach, like before the. Therefore, it's more of a stringent rule.
Bnei Noach, they don't.
No, today it's not part of the 7 Noachide laws, but what the Torah, when the Gemara says Bnei Noach, meaning that it was the restriction or this commandment not to eat the sciatic nerve started already before Torah was given. So what do we learn from it? That even though the Kodshim came before Gid Hanasheh, because Gid Hanasheh is so stringent, we are since Gid Hanasheh is so stringent, we are not eating Gid Hanasheh even when it comes to Kodshim. Okay?
And Kodshim, except for Chatos and Shlamim, are not eaten anyway. So you could say that maybe there wouldn't be a problem, in other words, like if it was in an Ola, because you don't eat it anyway, so why would you have to worry about Gid Hanasheh if it's Kochim?
Because the Kohanim do eat kochim.
But not an Ola.
Yeah, but some offerings they do.
Right.
What about these offerings? When we say we don't need Gid Hanasheh, when the Mishnah says we don't need Gid Hanasheh in kochim, the Mishnah is speaking in general, not just specific korban.
Okay.
You're right about Ola, but what about Shlomim?
In Chata,
What about Chatas? There's so many offerings that they take part, that the Kohanim eat, and even the owners, some korbanos, the owners eat. So what are we going to do with that?
Right, but this is more about the flavor that it passes onto the meat, not really, it's not really edible, right? You can't really eat the sciatic nerve, it's just
that was the
flavor.
machloket.
Yeah, we spoke about it yesterday a little bit, but
רבנו גידים זה רק ורידים, כמו ורידים. מי יאכל את זה בכלל anyway?
if you if you eat it part of the meat, it's part of the steak, you're not taking it out, so you eat the whole thing. Like you would say,
I mean, I
even
saw
till
it-
today,
I
if
saw
you
it in
eat
the picture, the Gid Hanasheh, it's really, all you have to do is like open the meat up and take it off and that's it.
yeah, you have over here. We saw it yesterday. If you open page here, I'll show it to you. Right here. This is Gid Hanasheh.
The green one?
This. Go all the way
Wait a minute,
from
the
here.
green color?
Yeah, not this one, this one.
This one.
This is a biblical prohibition. The Torah says not to eat it. This Chachamim said also don't eat
Not
this
eat.
one. But it also has, it's called kankanot.
Kankanot is
These.
all those leaves
Yeah.
going out there.
Yeah.
So this part, actually, this whole part is out.
Yeah, so it's part of the meat. It actually, we said that the question whether we should rely on the butcher or not, and there was an opinion in the Gemara that you shouldn't rely on the butcher. I believe it's Rabbi Meir who said you shouldn't rely on the butcher because of the difficult, the strenuous work that it entails.
And the Chachamim said yes.
Chacham said yes, you can rely on him,
And
but
then the Mepharshim say that you have to have hashgacha, you have to have a mashgiach to watch the nikol, to watch him do it, to make sure he does the right job.
In Netivot, there is someone who is very professional. They go to him all the time to do this.
so in Hebrew,
Huh?
Mumcha.
Mumhe b'nikurim.
right, in Hebrew it's called nikur, so I don't know what the English word for it, but it's someone that is able to, number one, identify the sinews and to extract them.
It probably takes a long time to do it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
the
a slow
issue.
process. It's a long process. Maybe it's not even worth it. Maybe it's more expeditious to sell it to the goyim.
That's what I was told that in the butcher shop, meaning the famous Lubashkin butcher shop, I heard that the whole back part of the cow is being sold to non-Jews.
Right.
Right. Most of them are. Rabbeinu, other animals also had Gid Hanasheh, right? I've been told even chicken I saw.
No chickens.
We learned
It's
No, we learned that it has, but it doesn't have the thigh bone.
right.
And because the Torah said that the Gid Hanasheh that is on the thigh bone, and since the
Isser. That's the Isser. The thigh, from the thigh bone,
Right.
that's the Isser.
right, that's the biblical. So since the chicken doesn't have that thigh bone, which is this is the thigh bone, and the kaf hayarech. So it says since it doesn't have it, then it's permissible.
That's the fighter. Man.
Man shomot lo la'isvo. So whom have you heard advance this idea that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to the sons of Noach? It is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. V'hamas nisin deloik Rabbi Yehuda, but our Mishnah doesn't accord with Rabbi Yehuda. So why am I mentioning Rabbi Yehuda? The Mishnah doesn't accord with him. The Ketani, it was stated, Noeg b'veimo v'chaya. The Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to both behema and chaya. Meaning, if you find a deer, you shecht a deer, it's you're not allowed to eat Gid Hanasheh in a deer. When we learned the laws of Kisui Adam, we said it's only chaya in a bird, in a fowl. But Gid Hanasheh applies to both. even to a non-domesticated animal. The kisod noeg beveimo v'chayo. B'yerech shel yamin u'v'yerech shel small. To the right thigh and to the left thigh. So it seems like you have double Gid Hanasheh. You have on both sides Gid Hanasheh.
Right, because it comes down the sciatic nerves on both sides.
Yeah. No, just I'm saying in the picture they're only showing you one, but really,
So
right.
Rabbi, it looks like Gid Hanasheh is on the right side of the cow.
No,
It comes from the back
That's just
all the way down to the right legs.
So
Is it in the other side too?
Yeah.
this is what I was just saying. You have it on both sides.
Yeah, but it's going from here down. The question is it going to the other side too?
Both
You know
sides
you
down
have
the
a,
leg,
you
yeah.
have
That's,
a
okay.
shlomo.
So that's why they give the whole half a back cow away.
Shlomo,
to the
you
goy.
know, Shlomo, you know you have the sciatic nerve on both legs.
Right,
You have
sciatic
that.
nerve,
Some
right.
people got back pain that goes down the left side, some people got it going down the right side.
Right.
It depends how the disc squeezed, how the disc is squeezed.
So obviously Rabbi Yehuda holds it's only on one side, it's a machloket.
No,
Yeah, I think we mentioned that Rabbi Yehuda was, but it says Rabbi Yehuda. Hence, in order for this explanation to be true, we must say that the Tana of our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda,
oh yeah, that's weird.
and it says the Mishnah. If you look at number 3, it says the Mishnah below cites a dispute as to whether the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to non-kosher animals. All in this Mishnah agrees that sinews possesses. That's what you said. The sinews possesses flavor, and that the Gid Hanasheh of non-kosher animals is therefore prohibited as a non-kosher meat, since the non-kosher prohibition takes effect as soon as the fetus forms, whereas the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not come to the animal until later when the sinews develop. The Tana Kama rules that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not take effect on the pre-existing prohibition against eating non-kosher meat. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and rules that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not take effect on the pre-existing non-kosher prohibition, because it is more stringent prohibition, Isur Chamur. He considers it more stringent because it applies to Yaakov's children even before the Torah was given at Sinai, when they were still classified as the sons of Noah. The rabbis, however, hold that the prohibition did not go into effect until the Torah was given at Sinai.
What happened with the Yaakov and the Malach is between Yaakov, the human being, and the Malach. What does that have to do with the cow
It says that
and animals?
it's a good question.
Why is it
It's a good
holding
question.
us from eating this back of the cow because of what happened there?
Right, it's a good question, but it says Al ken lo yochlu b'nei Israel et Gid Hanasheh, meaning the Torah tells us it's not the rabbis came up with it. The Torah says Al ken lo yochlu b'nei Israel et Gid Hanasheh, because of what happened to Yaakov. So therefore, the angel touched it. It becomes holy. We can't eat it. Why specifically? Why the Torah said it?
So it's holy, not tameh.
No, of course.
We don't eat because it's holy.
A lot of the times, things that we don't eat because they are consecrated. You know that anything that is asur, that says in Tanya, asur means that it's locked. Not that it's asur, meaning it's negative. It's locked. You can't elevate it. It's so powerful that I don't have the power to elevate it.
We say every day, Matir Asurim.
Yeah, I don't have a power
You
to
know what
elevate a pig. I don't have that power. But in the time of Mashiach, when we have that power, we can elevate it.
Chazir is
Asurim, from that rabbi say, Asur. Adam Asir, ulech lejail. Over there is Bet Asurim.
So the Gemara says, "V'amas nisnu lo yikar Rabbi Yehuda, the Ktan noeg b'veimo v'chayo." Rabbi Yehuda says that the laws of Gid Hanasheh applies to beima and to chaya and to non-domesticated animals, be'orach shel yom be'orach shel small, and both the right thigh and to the left thigh. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda maintains that it does not apply to both thighs. So it's the opinion of the rabbis that it applies to both thighs, And opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, it only applies to the right thigh.
So according to Rabbi Yehuda, then you could eat the left side, right?
Yes.
So what was this for? On that
Why? Let's see what the Gemara says. Aitana Sovar Leikavos Bechad. Tana, who authored our Mishnah, holds like Rabbi Yehuda in regards to one issue, but disagrees with him in regards to the other one. The Gemara challenges the basic premise of this explanation of the Mishnah. Could be if that Rabbi Yehuda says Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael es Gid Hanasheh, it doesn't say it's Gidei Hanasheh in a plural form, it says in a singular form. That could be his understanding.
I was thinking maybe when the Malach did it to Yaakov, maybe it was only on one side.
That's why I asked, is it in the other side too?
And then I said, why should you do Asher on both sides when he only did
When it's only on one side, that's what I said before. Is it literally?
Yeah, but it's interesting because the Gid Hanasheh is just a nerve,
I understand.
and it says that he dislocated his thigh,
Right.
and that's why he was limping. So how did they get to specifically the sciatic nerve? That's another question. Where you can say that we have heard Rabbi Yehuda rule that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition takes effect on a pre-existing prohibition due to its stringency of applying to the sons of Noach. Only in the case of non-kosher animals. The Isur Lav, which is a prohibition on the level of an ordinary negative commandment. Kodshim the Isur Koris Mishamatle, but in the case of the offspring of Kodshim, which is a prohibition that carries the penalty of Kores, have you heard him say that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition would take effect on a pre-existing prohibition? The Gemara says, surely not. The Gemara therefore concedes that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition cannot take effect on a pre-existing Kodshim prohibition. It also concedes that the Mishnah cannot be referring to the Gid Hanasheh of the offspring of a consecrated animal. The Gemara therefore suggests another interpretation for our Mishnah, and for Mishnah's ruling that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to consecrated animals. Ela ocho bim vakeres askina. Rather, we are dealing with an unconsecrated animal giving birth to a bechor. When it says b'mevakeres means an animal that is pregnant is about to give birth to a bechor, the firstborn. The Verlechem Kodesh, which becomes consecrated from the womb, as it emerges from it, becomes holy. Biboy say more, if you prefer, say that our Mishnah does indeed refers to the offspring of consecrated animals. Valdois Kodshim Bavayosan Hein Kedoshim. It follows that the view of the offspring of Kodshim animals become consecrated with their coming into being, upon the birth and not earlier. Accordingly, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition, which comes with the formation of the sinew when the animal is yet a fetus, takes effect before the Kodshim prohibition, which does not come to the animal until the animal is born. The Gemara discusses the meaning of the Mishnah's ruling that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to Kodshim. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Yosef lo yishonu ela Kodshim hane'echolim. Rabbi Chia bar Yosef said they did not say that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to consecrated animals except with respect to Kodshim that are eaten. Kodshim hane'echolim. Aval Kodshim she'eina ne'echolim. But with respect to Kodshim that are not eaten, for example, the burnt offering, the Ola, whose meat is burnt on the altar, ein isur Gid noeg boen. The Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not apply to Ola, because the whole thing is being burnt. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, achar echad Kodshim hane'echolim ve'echad Kodshim shene'echolim ein isur Gid noeg boen. Whether it's a Kodshim that are eaten or Kodshim that are not eaten, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to them. It applies to all categories, whether it's eaten or not. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan.
Since the pasuk says al tachlu, it's hard to see that. I don't understand that. When it says whether they're eaten or not, it's easy to understand if they are eaten. Why would it apply according to the pasuk if they aren't eaten?
Because there's a concept of achilas mizbeach, meaning the mizbeach is, some argue that the mizbeach itself consuming.
It's consuming, okay.
Yeah.
Not the
So then you have the same issue now applies.
So the Mizbeach is holding the same, have kosher food like.
Yeah.
it's consuming.
Can we put on the mizbeach something that is not 100%? Obviously not.
So therefore you're gonna say we should pull out the Gid Hanasheh.
Then you can argue that maybe Gid Hanasheh should also be taken out. Amar Rav Papa v'lei pligi, they do not disagree. They merely speak of different issues. Kan la'al koiso, kan la'al loiso. Here, Rabbi Yochanan's ruling, it refers to subjecting him to lashes for eating the Gid Hanasheh. It's going to be liable to lashes to Malchus. Kan la'al loiso, whereas Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef ruling, it refers to bringing it up to the altar to burn.
We learned in Menachos that they didn't just put the animal on his back, they cut it in the tuach, they cut it into pieces, and then they carried it, they threw the pieces on the mizbeach.
The parts, yeah, it says, V'nitach oisol in
so the
esochov.
pieces were already cut up.
Yes. This is when Rabbi Chia, and I think they even removed the skin,
Yeah, they did.
because the skin was burned somewhere else.
Or the skin was given to the Kohanim.
When Rabbi Chia, it says in 16, Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef says that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not apply to an oilo. He means that it is permitted to burn the Gid Hanasheh on the altar as part of the ola offering. For the Torah says, Al ken lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael as Gid Hanasheh. Therefore, the children of Israel are not to eat the displaced sinew. It does not state, therefore, the altar. It says, Al ken lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it says, so it even strengthened the point that the Mizbeach is consuming, Mizbeach is eating also. But since in the Pasuk it says, Ken lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael,
Yeah.
therefore, according to him, it will be permissible to put the oil on the Mizbeach with the Gid Hanasheh. The altar shall not consume the displaced. It says, therefore, the children of Israel are not to eat the displaced sinew. It does not say that therefore the altar shall not consume the displaced sinew. Rabbi Yochanan agrees with this prohibition, his proposition as well. When Rabbi Yochanan says that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not apply to an oilo, he means that one who eats the Gid Hanasheh of an oilo receives malchus for doing so. Since the Gid Hanasheh prohibition took effect on it before it was consecrated. Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef agrees with this as well.
So if it happened before it was consecrated, doesn't it become if he cut it and he ate the Gid Hanasheh, doesn't it become a bal mum? Does it become a mum? How can it be kosher after that?
No, we're speaking about
Which you said it was before.
in the stomach, meaning that we're talking about consecrated food. First we mentioned mevakeres, bechor. So bechor, when does it become holy? When it comes out of the womb, right? And then, so the Gid Hanasheh was there before the kedusha, right? So first Gid Hanasheh, and then we're speaking about consecrated foods, that the kedusha also kicked in before the Gid Hanasheh, because the sinews are only developed later.
But what you just said was about an olah, right? In other words, we would say that an olah it's not the mizbeach that's eating, it's the person. So if a person took kochim and he ate the Gid Hanasheh,
Liable to lashes.
Before it was put on the mizbeach, all I'm asking is, how could he put it on the mizbeach?
So according to the opinion, that you don't have to put Gid Hanasheh, that you don't put Gid Hanasheh on the mizbeach,
That you don't.
right? If he ate it, he can still offer it, no?
But I'm asking,
Meaning he's not offering Gid
a
Hanasheh.
different question. Does it taking the Gid Hanasheh out of the behemoth make it a mum?
No, of course not.
Does it make it
Obviously, while it's alive, yeah, but if it's dead, why is it a mum? Anything that you take out of the animal once it's shechted, it's not a mum. A blemish can only take place once When can you render an animal treifa
Before.
on a vela? It's before.
Yeah.
Before, during. But once the animal is shechted, you're taking at the Gid Hanasheh, no, it's not a problem at all. When it could be a problem if you take the meat and you take it out of the certain areas, then you can create an issue. But cutting up the meat is definitely not a mum. It does create a mum is that the animal has a blemish while it's alive.
Okay. Right,
Yeah.
because we just
The whole
said
category of a mum is only when the animal is alive, and when you checked it, you can see, actually one of the things that you examine, remember we learn about the lungs, one of the things we were trying to find out, that was it developed afterwards, or it happened before. If it was developed afterwards, then it's not a mum. But
Right,
if it was developed before, then it's a mum.
right.
So no, it's not a problem at all to cut up the animal.
Yeah, but they both make sense. But both approaches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that if they wouldn't, they would be mentioned over here?
I'm like, can't wait to figure this out.
What's Paul saying? What are you saying?
You're saying that both opinions make sense. I said, do you think they would be mentioned if they wouldn't? Ika de Amrei, Amar of Papa v'loi pli kan lechatze v'kan aloisa. So it says they do not disagree. Here, Rabbi Chia's Bar Yosef's ruling, it refers to removing it from the thigh prior to the offering, the thigh on the altar. V'kan aloisoi, whereas Rabbi Yochanan's ruling refers to bringing it up on the altar after it was removed from the thigh.
It's here, prohibited, okay. If one did remove the sciatic nerve, it is prohibited to bring it up onto the altar independently. So it becomes garbage in a way. I mean, I don't know.
So when you offer the, when it says lechatzoi, meaning that you remove the sciatic nerve from the thigh prior to putting the thigh on the altar, right?
Then you don't put the Gid Hanasheh on there afterwards, after you took it out.
It says Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef teaches that there is no obligation to remove
Right,
the Gid Hanasheh before placing the thigh on the altar to burn,
right,
as long as the Gid Hanasheh is still embedded in the thigh.
right.
The Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not apply, and it may be burnt on the altar as part of the thigh.
So if
the
you
Rashi.
did take it out, it would be also, it would be the opposite of what you did.
That's according to one opinion, Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef. And then you have a Kan La'aloisa, whereas Rabbi Yochanan's ruling, it refers to bringing it up on the altar after it was removed from the thigh. Once the Gid Hanasheh has been removed from the thigh of the oila, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies to it, even in regard to the altar. It is forbidden to burn the separated Gid Hanasheh on the altar. So if it's embedded, so really they're not arguing. All they're saying is that if it's embedded, it's not a problem to put it on the altar.
Right.
But if it's not, if there are two
Right,
distinct
right. If somebody-
entities, now it's a problem.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omer La'aloisa Pelegi. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said they disagree with respect to offering it up on the altar as part of the thigh. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak now cites two brises to demonstrate that there is a Tanoic dispute between Rebbe and the rabbis about this very issue. To bring it on the altar with it or without it. Several steps are necessary to prove this point. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak begins by citing a brisa that delineates which parts of an oil offering are burnt on the altar. Which parts of the oil offering are burnt on the altar? And this is continued to what you mentioned before, that they brought the oil on the altar as parts.
Yes.
They said, which part do I bring before? You have a bunch of parts. Which one gets the precedence of...
Yeah, it's not,
Tanya, it was taught in the Brisa of Iktir HaKohen es HaKoil HaMizbecho. The Kohen shall burn everything on the altar. L'rabes, ha'atzomes, ha'agidim, ha'karnaim, ha'atlofayim. And we learned that to include bones, sinews, horns, hooves, everything goes. Yoch, lafilu, porshu, it might be thought that even if they separated, it might be thought that they should be offered on the altar even if they separated from the meat. The things I just mentioned, bones, sinews, horns,
Hooves.
and hooves. Talmud Leimar ve'osiso oilosecho habosor va'adom. You shall make your oil offerings the meat and the blood, which indicates that only the meat and blood of a sacrifice are put on the altar, not the bones, sinews, horns, and hooves.
So sinews would be synonymous with Gid Hanasheh.
Yeah.
Gid Hanasheh, so that wouldn't apply then.
So that means you gotta do a better butcher job.
If, however, the Torah were to state only the latter verse, which teaches that the meat and blood are offered, it might be thought that one must remove the sinews and bones, and bring only the meat up on the altar. Talmud Leimar, as and the Kohen shall burn everything on the altar, which implies that the sinews and bones should also be burnt on the altar. How is it being done? Mechubor in yalu. Attached to the meat, they should be brought up and burnt along with it. Porshu, if they separated from it, afilu b'rosh shel mizbeach yerdu, even if they are on top of the altar, yerdu, they must come down.
That's a chiddush, because we generally don't know what it is.
It's interesting because we thought it was supposed to be brought as parts, and then he tells me that if it's broken into parts, if it's broken into parts, they have to come down. It says even berosh mizbeach, on top of the altar. Who is the Tana that said that if they separated, they must come down? Rabbi, it's the opinion of Rabbi the Tanya. It says the Kohen should bring everything. You're not going to find the bones, sinews, horns, and hooves, and even if they separated from the body of the offering. How then I interpret the pasuk, and you shall make your oil offering the meat and the blood, which implies that only the meat and the blood are put on the altar, not other parts of the oil. With respect to offering parts that burst off the altar.
Like it fell off.
Yeah. Hakeitzad. Ikulei vaso atamachzir. Partially consumed meat of an oilo that burst from the altar, you return to the altar fire to complete its burning. V'yatamachzir ikulei gidim v'atzomis. But you do not return to the altar partially consumed sinews and bones. Rabbi Omer, one pasuk said, the Kohen shall burn everything. Ribo. The pasuk adds, hakoil is ribui, is adding, including bones, sinews, horns, and hooves. And another pasuk says, you shall make your oil offerings the meat and the blood. Mi'et. This is mute, it's excluding, right? You shall make your oil offerings the meat and the blood. Mi'et, the pasuk excludes the bones, sinews, horns, and hooves. How so? How do you resolve this apparently contradictory psukim? If the bones, sinews are attached to the meat, they should be brought up. Porshu, if they're separated, even on top of the altar, they need to come down. We see from this brisa that the Rebbe is the Tana who holds that bones, sinews that separate from the body of an offering do not go up on the altar. For some reason, if they were cut off, they are not to be placed on the altar. According to the rabbis, however, they are placed on the altar. So the rabbis are the more prevalent opinion. They are the majority. But Ratana Kama, which is Rabbi, says no. If it's separated, they're not going on the altar. And if you put them on the altar, you got to bring them down, which is showing even more stringent. To bring something down from the altar, it needs to be a very good reason to bring it down.
Because generally everything that goes up stays up.
The Rabbanon. Now, the rabbis who explained the pasuk to include bones, sinews that separated hold, attached bones, sinews do not need a special pasuk, a special verse to include them in the list of parts brought up to the altar. For these are analogies to the head of the oilah, which the Torah explicitly states should be burnt on the altar, even though it contains many bones. There's a lot of things in the head. The Torah says the head.
The
Skull, the brain, whatever includes in the head. Maybe even the tongue is part of the head. When is the pasuk needed to teach that bones, sinews are brought up on the altar? For shu, only in the case where they became separated from the meat. Rabbi, who interprets the pasuk, the first verse, as teaching that only attached bones, sinews are offered on the altar, would say mechubor in the attached that are permissible, bones and sinews that are permissible, analogies to the bones of the head of an oilah. Indeed, do not need a pasuk to include them. When is the pasuk needed? Gid Hanasheh to include the Gid Hanasheh when it's still attached to the thigh. And the rabbis, because Scripture states with regard to the sacrificial offerings, from the feast of Israel, Mimashki Yisrael, from which we derive that sacrificial offerings may come only from that which is permitted to Israel for consumption, Gid Hanasheh, which is forbidden for ordinary consumption, indeed cannot be offered on the altar, even as part of the thigh. The pasuk that adds bones, sinews to the list of parts offered on the altar must therefore come to include bones and sinews that separated from the oilah meat. Rabbi's counter argument, Rabbi would say, despite the teaching just cited, the Gid Hanasheh is offered on the altar, since it is just like the chaylev and blood of a sacrifice, which are not permitted for ordinary consumption, but are nonetheless offered on the altar. The rabbis reply, "V'rabbonon mitzvosim b'chach shani." It is their mitzvah for this to be done. It is different. The blood and chaylev of an offering cannot serve as a precedent for the Gid Hanasheh. We see from this that whether Gid Hanasheh of an oilah is offered on the altar when it is still attached to the thigh is the subject of a Tanoic dispute, as Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said above. The Gemara now cites an explicit Amoraic dispute regarding the sacrificial status of the Gid Hanasheh of an oilah. Amar Ravuna Gid Hanasheh shel oilah chol tzoilat tapuach. One removes it from the thigh and throws it to the ash mound in the middle of the altar.
That's what I said.
Well, a nice way of saying it.
That's the same thing I said, but different.
I was thinking something.
Same idea.
Don't we say garbage is ashpa?
Ashpa. Yeah.
Ashpa, right? Ashpa, ash. I know. Just thinking of it when he says you throw it to the ash pile.
In English, they have a nice word for it: sanitation.
Right.
It really is ashpa. In Thai, it's apakok. Ashpa. Gid Hanasheh shel oilah chol tzoilat tapuach. one removes it from the thigh and throws it to the ash mound in the middle of the altar. Interesting that he calls it tapuach. Tapuach is an apple.
I think he calls it that because it looks like an apple. The pile is probably rounded in the shape of an apple.
Omar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said, Mori Deichi, master of the statement. It doesn't say, we mentioned this before, the altar is not to eat the Gid Hanasheh. It doesn't say it. It says, Al ken lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael ksiv. It's written that b'nei Yisrael should not eat it. Why should it not be burnt on the altar? Rav Huna prohibits burning the Gid Hanasheh on the altar on account of the rule derived from the verse, from the feast of Israel, which teaches that sacrificial offerings must be offered from that which is permitted to Israel for consumption. Since Gid Hanasheh is forbidden for ordinary consumption, it cannot be offered on the altar. If you can't eat it, the Mizbeach should not eat it. And you shouldn't, as we mentioned before, you shouldn't bring chaylev into the picture. Right? Because we can't eat chaylev, but we still offer it on the altar. So yeah.
I have another question. Sometimes the Lashon B'nai Yisrael is a miyah, and it means only Gevarim, it means only men, and it excludes the women, right? So maybe you could ask a question, maybe men are not allowed to eat it because it says B'nai Yisrael and women would be allowed to eat it.
Right.
Rabbi, why you don't bring chalev? Why don't bring chalev? It's very good to bring chalev.
No, we bring chalev on the altar. We don't eat chalev.
Bring the subject. Don't compare. They say don't compare.
Oh, right. He said.
Why don't bring chalev? Bring chalev.
Because the pasuk separate them. The verse makes a distinction. Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael Gid Hanasheh. It doesn't say Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael Gid Hanasheh and chalev. Instead, it's like a very specific verse just for Gid Hanasheh. So you can argue that it shouldn't be mentioned together. It makes sense. But in general, it also makes sense to compare them. Same way we can't eat Gid Hanasheh, the Mizbeach shouldn't eat Gid Hanasheh. But then you say, okay, but what about chalev?
Yeah.
Chalev we are not allowed to eat, the Mizbeach does eat. But this is also a good argument. It says Bnei Yisrael should not eat. It doesn't say the Mizbeach shouldn't eat, right?
So Bnei Yisrael doesn't eat Gid Hanasheh and Mizbeach should eat?
Right, but that's already an inference. You're saying, I'm deriving because the Jews are not allowed to eat, maybe the Mizbeach shouldn't eat.
Okay.
But you say, if you look at the verse itself, it doesn't say the Mizbeach should not eat the Gid Hanasheh. Let's see. They challenge Rav Huna from the following brisa. Gid Hanasheh shel Shlomim. The Gid Hanasheh of Shlomim offering. Right? Shlomim, we said, the owners, and the Kohanim, the Mizbeach, they all get a piece of it.
And their family too.
Right? The owners the families are included in the owners of the Korban. So they challenge Rav Huna from the following brisa. Gid Hanasheh shel Shlomim, the Gid Hanasheh of Shlomim offering, Mechab do'ilo amo. One removes it from the thigh and sweeps it into the canal that runs across the floor of the temple courtyard. Meaning, throws it, allows it to be washed away. Veshel oilo, and that of an oilo ma'aleyu, he brings it on the altar. Ma'ilav, what does this mean? Ma'aleyu maktiroi, that one brings it up and burns it on the altar. Ma'aleu maktir, obviously it makes sense that he places it on the altar. The Gemara says, Loi. When it says Ma'aleu maktir, what is the meaning? Ma'aleu v'chol, so it means that one brings it up to the top of the altar while it is still embedded in the thigh and meat, and he then removes it from the thigh and throws it to the ash mound, as Rav Huna explained, meaning that he extracting
In the altar.
the sinews on the altar.
On the altar.
Yeah.
So
Umach-
but they had I don't know, the way I'm reading it, they made a difference between the Shlomim, that some
He tosses it. Shlomim, he tosses, is tossing the...
Or one that has to be totally burned, you can put, they're saying...
You put it on the altar, question how? Am I putting it on the altar embedded in the meat, or I'm separating it from the meat and putting it on the ash mound?
Yeah, ashbar, right, but I don't know.
I don't know if the ash mound is ashpa.
No?
No.
Ash mound is part of the mizbeach.
Rabbi, did they
I
light
think it
the,
was next to the mizbeach. I don't think it was on the mizbeach.
when did they light it on fire? Before or
In
after?
the morning.
Tapuach is
And then it
apple.
just stays
But I
with
think it
the
was in the
outside
shape
one?
of an apple.
Yeah, it says Eish Tomi Tukad al Mizbeach Lo
It was
Tichbe.
called tapuach.
There's a constant fire on the Mizbeach, should never be
It was
put
a
out.
round
There's
pot.
always a fire on the Mizbeach.
All right. Whatever, let's see here. Plot thickens.
The Gemara says, "Mechal shechol tzolam ha'ma'aleu." But since he removes it from the thigh and does not burn it on the altar, why does he bring it up on the altar at all? Let him remove it before bringing the thigh up on the altar. Right? You understand the question? Let him take it off before you bring it on the altar. Why to take it off on the altar? It says, "Mishum shenemar akriveo na lefecho secho." Present it, if you please, to your governor. From which we learn that whatever would be disrespectful to offer to a flesh and blood ruler, is this, meaning regular king, is disrespectful to offer on the altar to God. It is therefore improper to bring a dissected thigh up on the altar. Guess it means by dissected that it's opened into pieces.
That's what I was thinking about before.
You know where the statement comes from? "Akrevno lefecho secho"? I think it's connected with the offering of Cain and Hevel. That Cain's offering was lousy. He took the rotten tomatoes, and Hevel brought the fattest of the sheep that he had. "Akrevno lefecho secho." Hayirtzecho, I think it says Hayirtze min chosecho. Would he want your offering? Would you bring something like this to a king, a flesh and blood king? Would you bring it in front of him or not?
So wait a minute, so here it says you bring up the whole thing and then you take off the sciatic nerve when you're at the top of the altar.
Right. You remove it. So this way, you're not giving
We
some.
have a similar concept with Royal Shulchan Malachim, in other words, with what's considered to be Bishul Achim, whether you would serve it on the king's table
Right.
or not.
Yeah, that's the argument people making of Lay's chips, right? So it says potato chips. Does it need to be Bishul Yisrael or not? Meaning it has OU on it,
Right.
but does it need to be Bishul Yisrael? So it says, would it be Oila Shulchan Malachim?
Would you give it to the president to eat?
And actually, we were told that the president likes Doritos and Coke. He's eating Doritos and Coke.
I think they use Queen Elizabeth.
So it's Oila Shulchan Malachim. If you're using Trump, yeah, he's eating it.
They use the British Queen as the benchmark.
He said that they once came into his room, and they saw a button on the table, so they thought it's the bomb.
Right.
So he said, no, every time I push the button, the guys know to give me Coke and the Doritos.
It's a good button.
Taina Kavasei de Rav Huna. A brisa was taught in accordance with Rav Huna. Gid Hanasheh of Shlomim offering, Mechabdei lo amo. One removes it from the thigh and sweeps it into the canal and that runs across the temple courtyard. V'shel oilo chotzel tapuach. But if it's an oil offering, he removes it from the thigh and throws it to the ash mound at the center of the altar.
The center of the altar.
Center of the altar. Having mentioned the altar's ash mound in the preceding discussion, the Gemara cites the Mishnah about it and comments on it. Now we can see why it was called tapuach, an apple. There was an ash mound in the middle of the altar. At times Pe'omim, sometimes, oya olav kishloish me'isku, at times there were about 300 core of ashes on it. How much is 300 core? It says core is a measure of volume equal to 30 seah, as mentioned above. Note 10. It says, the ashes of the altar were not immediately removed, rather they were raked into the middle of the altar, where they formed an apple-shaped mound called the tapuach. When the mound got very large and there was insufficient room for the pyre, the ashes were removed to a designated place outside the city.
Is that Truma Tadeshi?
Rav Huna maintains that it is prohibited to burn the Gid Hanasheh together with the thigh meat on the altar. He therefore states that after bringing the thigh up on the altar, the Gid Hanasheh is removed from it and thrown onto the ash mound, from where it is eventually removed with the ashes. Only then is the thigh placed on the altar fire.
Is
So-
this Truma Tadeshi they did in the morning? That was the first devoted
Yes.
that the Kohanim made the lottery for. To see
Oh,
who
the-
would be Truma, who would
No,
take
I
it up.
thought the lottery was for the Ktoiras. Who would do the
No, but
Ktoiras?
also for Truma
Or for
Tadeshi.
Tumas Hadesh.
Pious.
So what does it say about this tapuach? With this tapuach be'emtza mizbeach pama 300 kur. How much was 300 kur? So it says 300 cores of ashes is equivalent to 675 cubic amos. 675 cubic amos.
If it was right in the middle of the Mizbech, that would take up a lot of room.
Right. So that's when it gets to that size, they take it out. Amar Rava, Guzma. This is an exaggeration. He said Guzma. It's an exaggeration. The Gemara cites another Mishnah about which Rava made similar comment. We learned in another Mishnah they gave the Talmid lamb to drink in a gold cup.
This says that
Before they slaughtered the lamb, used for the Talmid offering, they gave it water to drink in a golden cup. Having an animal drink before being slaughtered makes it easier to remove the hide.
Wow.
Otherwise, you know what it's called? It's called dehydrated.
Right.
Rabbi, I just sorry to interrupt, but I saw this week a video of many Arabs eating in a big place like a synagogue, and they were dressing very well. Everyone with this, like this, you know, the
Hat.
the begadim that they use.
Right.
Everyone, and they sit in the round tables, and the tables was camels, like this and this, very big, and there's no forks and knives. Everybody gives a hand to each other and eat, like this, rice, and the rice that remains in the hands they throw in there and they eat again, like animals.
You know what we learned before? We learned before in the Gemara that the big day kahuna, that even one spot of blood, even one tiny spot of blood got on the big day kahuna, they had to take it off. They couldn't do the avoda. And it had to be washed, like I think 24 times before they could put it back on. Because they had to use all these different cleaning materials on it. So by us, in other words, by the kohanim, even if there's a little spot of blood,
They didn't have shelters.
So, if you think about what we just read, that they would give the sheep, the lamb, to drink the water in order for it, in order for them to make it easier, so you can remove the hide. Heard a rabbi that says that many times you see somebody is getting something that you don't have. So he said, imagine the sheep. The sheep is is getting water, all the other sheep are looking and they're not getting water, and this sheep, they're jealous. So, but they don't understand that this sheep is going to be shechted. That's why it's getting water. So not necessarily, it's not necessarily someone who gets something is a positive thing. It could be also
You know,
a
I
negative
heard
thing.
something weird yesterday. It said sheep are smart. They have an idea where the places that they're going to get shechted. So they try to avoid going there because they know.
They know it's coming.
So what they do in the slaughterhouse is they teach a goat to be friends with the sheep, and the sheep gets to be trusting the goat, and they'll go wherever the goat wants to go. So the goat, then they want to shecht the sheep. So they make the goat go up to where the slaughter is, and the sheep go and get shechted, and they give the goat a treat.
Wow.
I just thought of another one that's worse than the previous one. So if the sheep hides, what's it called? Hide and seek. Or hide and sheep.
Yeah. So Omar Rava Guzma. So Rava says it's exaggeration to say that they would give the Talmid lamb water with a golden cup. Omar Rabbi Ami Dibra Torah Loshon Havai. It says there are instances in which the Torah spoke in terms of hyperbole.
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 That's exaggeration.
Yeah.
It's a poetic
Hyperbole.
thing.
Dibur Nevi'im Loshon Havai. The prophet spoke in terms of hyperbole.
Exaggerate. Here's its
Hyperbole.
Which
Yeah.
only one says it.
I like hyperbole.
They were not particular to use golden cup. They did not, however, use earthenware for this purpose. Rather, they would use copper vessels. However, the copper used in the temple was so highly burnished that it looked. We use varnished.
Varnish is different.
That it looked like gold, giving rise to the exaggerated statement they use gold cups. Yeah. So Divrei Chacham lo shana v'damor and Divrei Torah lo shana v'ay. It's a orim gedolus of etzos b'shamayim. For an example, we see the exaggeration where the Torah spoke in terms of a hyperbole is in the verse large cities and fortified to the heavens. The cities didn't make it all the way to the heavens, but the Torah spoke hyperbole. Dibru anevim lo shenave v'tiboka haaretz b'koilom. An example of where the prophet spoke in terms of hyperbole, in the verse, the ground split from their noise. In 3 places the sages spoke in terms of hyperbole. Eiluhen, these are the 3 places: Tapuach, Geffen, Ufaroiches. In regards to the ash mound, the amount, it says 675 cubics. And regarding to the grapevines, probably the meraglim, the spies, Ufaroiches, and the Mishnah regarding the paroiches. What was it regarding the? Oh, so the Gemara will describe Tapuach Adamo. The Mishnah regarding the ash mound is what is the one we have stated. Gef and Desnan, the grapevine is that which we have learned in the following Mishnah. And what does it say? Gef and Shazova Yisamed Lapischa Shelecho. There was a kind of grapevine made of gold standing by the entrance of the Echol, the sanctuary of the temple.
Here's a picture. You see it looks like the gold leaves that are hanging down.
Oh yeah.
Show Paul.
Entrance hall of the sanctuary adorned with golden vine.
It looks better in color.
Umoidlo al gabe kulnosis, which was suspended over poles. V'chol mi sh'oyom misnadev gagi ro'eshkol, and whoever donated a golden grape or a golden cluster on the temple to the temple offers, maybe v'soilebo would bring it and hang it on it. It once occurred that so much gold accumulated on the grape arbor that 300 Kohanim were appointed to clear all the donated gold from it. Paroiches Desnan, the Mishnah regarding the Paroiches in which the sages spoke in terms of hyperbole, is that which we learned in the following Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Rabbi Shimon ben Hasgan. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said in the name of Rabbi Shimon, the son of the deputy, Kohen God Paroiches of your tefach, the thickness of the Paroiches was tefach. And it was woven on the 72 handle shafts, and in each and every thread contained 24 strands. Its length was 40 ames, its width was 20 ames, and it was made from 820,000 threads. And 2 were made each year. There are 300 kahanim would be used to immerse it in a mikvah if it became tameh. Going back to Gid Hanasheh, prohibition applies to the senior to the right and to the senior to the left. Masnisin, like Rabbi Yehuda, the Mishnah is not in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yehuda says, the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies only to the sinew of one of the thighs. And logic weighs in favor of saying that it is the one on the right side. What does it mean, logic weighs? The Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda hold with certainty that the prohibition sinew is on the right side. Umay das, and what is the meaning of logic weighs? Das Torah, it means the Torah logic. Torah's logic weighs in this direction. The Torah itself indicates that the right sinew is the prohibited one. Or perhaps Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain as to which of the two sinews the Torah prohibits. So, my das noito. And what is the meaning of logic weighs? It means merely that logical reasons or logical reasoning leans toward the conclusion that the right sinew is the prohibited one, but this cannot be asserted with certainty. Tashma so bones, sinews, and the leftover meat of the Pesach offering. Pesach offering is so full of shisha, so must be burnt on the 16th of Nisan. Vehavinon bo. And in our discussion of that Mishnah, we raised the following difficulty concerning it. Hane gidi maya videtayu. What is the nature of these sinews that the Mishnah mentions? If they are ordinary sinews of flesh, let them be eaten on the night of the 15th together with the rest of the Pesach meat. Why must they be burnt on the 16th? And if you suggest that they are in fact to be eaten, but the Mishnah refers to a case where it has happened that they were left over, hainu noiso. That is the case of leftover meat, which the Mishnah mentioned afterwards. Ela gidi tzavo. Rather, you might suggest that the Mishnah refers to the hard, inedible sinews of the neck, which from the outset do not stand to be eaten. Ilav baso ninu lishadinu. But if they are not edible meat, let them be discarded. Why must they be burnt? Which then are the sinews that stand from the outset to be burnt. Rav Chizda said in answer to this question, the Mishnah mention of sinews is necessary only in regards to the Gid Hanasheh. In accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who said the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies only to the sinew of one of the thighs. The Gemara analyzes Rav Chisda's explanation of the Mishnah and thereby presents its resolution to the inquiry. All is well if you say that Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain as to which sinew is prohibited. Since one of them is permitted, yet neither can be eaten because of the uncertainty as to which is the permitted one, both must be burnt. But if you said Rabbi Yehuda holds with certainty that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition applies only to the sinew of the right thigh, why does the Mishnah rule that the sinews requiring burning? Let the permitted sinew of the left side be eaten. The Isura Lishdiyeh. And let the prohibition one of the right side be discarded. Clearly Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain which is the prohibited sinew.
So then, according to this, he makes an interesting comment. He says that therefore neither one of them would be burned on the Mizbeach, because
Right.
one is discarded and the other one is eaten. The left side is eaten and
Right.
the right one away.
But if it's eaten, then you should be allowed to put it on the altar. Like the argument that we said, that if anything that we eat, we can put on the altar. So we'll see. Amar Rabbi Bar Chanina said, "Le'oilom eimalach mifshat pshitale." Actually, I can tell you that Rabbi Yehuda holds with certainty that the right sinew is the prohibited one. In normal circumstances, therefore, the left sinew is eaten and the right sinew is discarded. Okay? In normal circumstances, the left is eaten, the right is discarded. And what are we dealing with here in the Mishnah? Where the two sinews were identified and later became mingled, so that it is not known which came from the right side and which from the left. Since one of them is actually fit for consumption, but neither can be eaten, they must be burnt. Buchim Tiyu. We'll continue, God willing, tomorrow.
All right.